Welcome to the Pocahontas County Opera House Story Sessions. Tonight, our guest is Mike Burns, with a special guest, Mary Sue.
Ready, Lulu? That was the old Mother Flanagan from way back, and again, that was the first fiddle tune that I ever really liked. So, and guess what? I still remember it today, or part of it. Now, another one that just came to me was Melvin Wine, and Melvin, he was a real small, kind of little skinny little guy, and it was really funny how he played. I mean, he wasn't very big at all, and he'd hold that fiddle just like this, and he would play that thing. He was just like that, and I have no idea how in the world he could do that, but he did, and he never missed a lick. And I can remember playing with him, you know, on some performances, and I was playing banjo, and he'd get to going, and that just about cracked me up, and I'd be over here, and he'd switch songs. He'd say, "We're going to play this song," and he'd play another one, and or halfway through, instead of playing A, B, B, the parts like that, he'd play A, B, 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 A, B, B. So you just had to stay on your toes all the time. But just to see him, watch him playing and doing that fiddling is just absolutely amazing. That brings me to, we'll play a tune of Melvin's. It's called "Waiting for the Boatman." And he played it in D, and he played it kind of, it's a little crooked and a little melancholy. And we play it in A and play it kind of like a happy tune. So we'll try that one, "Waiting for the Boatman." the Boatman, an old Melvin Wine tune. Oh no, why don't we try Red Steer?
If you dare.
And so you can see how, like this, how different individuals can influence you musically and all. And so I have the influence from the older guys from when I started, and then that from the younger guys. And then I went back and played with the older guys a little bit more. And then with our group that we play with today, and what's crazy about that group that we play with today is, you know, I was in my 20s playing with, way back then, playing with young people. And then all of a sudden, I'm 25 years old or so, and I'm playing with all these old guys. And here it is 40 some years later, and I'm still playing with old people. Can't believe it. All right. Well, how it all began. It began many, many years ago. Actually, when I was in college, and I was going to WVU Forestry School, and I was over at Elkins at the Forest Festival. And our forestry school had an exhibit set up there, and we were kind of recruiting and whatnot. And after that, on Sunday, they had the West Virginia Open Banjo and Fiddle Contest. And I'd been messing around with the guitar a little bit, and we had a little jug band of our forestry bunch. So we went over to see the West Virginia Fiddle and Banjo Championships. And we got inside there into the Elkins Armory, and there was they did the fiddles first, they did the banjos first. And I heard Foggy Mountain break down, I don't know how many times. And then, all of a sudden this guy came out there and sat down, and he started playing, and he played clawhammer banjo, and that guy turned out to be Dwight Diller. And that's the first time I'd ever heard clawhammer, and I thought, now, I like that. And so, long story short, he was at WVU at the same time, and he was working on his master's in horticulture, and I was just lived down the road from where they were, and he was teaching some other people how to play. And I sort of wiggled my way in there playing guitar with them, and then one thing led to another, and then next thing you know, I was playing banjo. But what was good about it was they'd all left Morgantown, so I was the only banjo player up there at the time. So worked out pretty good. And that opened my door to come here to Pocahontas County. And I would come down and visit with Dwight and some of these other musicians, and that's when I learned or ran in with the Hammondses and Burl and Sherman and Maggie, and then also Mr. Lee Hammonds and spent a lot of time with them through the years and heard some of their stories. And it's kind of interesting how they, their take on things. We didn't ever sit down and play in a big group. They would just pick up an instrument and play, and then you'd listen to them, and then they'd give you the instrument and you would play. And here's one that Sherman, one of the first ones that Sherman's banjo tunes that I played, he called it Groundhog. And I'm thinking this is close to how it was at the time, because that was a long time ago, back in the 70s. I was only like 18 years old at the time. And it's pretty interesting, these guys, maybe they made the tune up, I don't know. But they said this was Sherman's tune, he called it Groundhog. Now, he called that tune Groundhog, and you got to kind of envision being out on the Williams River and nothing else. You're not hearing any sounds or anything like that. All you're hearing is this banjo playing and echoing off of those mountains out there, and it's made quite an impression on me. And I can remember sitting in his house out there, and Maggie was telling a story, and it was right as the sun was going down in the evening. And I sit down there on the couch, and he had one of those couches that, like when you sit down, you go up to your armpits, where you sink into it. And they had just a little old, like 40-watt light bulb hanging in the middle of the room, and the sun was going down, and all I could see was Maggie's silhouette against the sun that was going down by the window. And it was, at the time, I had no idea I was living the history that I was living. And Maggie was telling the story about a panther chasing them around when they were a kid or something like that. But just to be caught up in that moment is, it's just something that's really hard to, you almost had to be there. But it was really interesting, and it just added to all the lore of their stories and the things the Hammondses did. Now, Sherman, I played this one tune that Sherman really liked it. He didn't play it, but he wanted me to play it and sing it for him. And it was a tune called Muskrat. And I'm not really sure where I learned it. The old saying, they said that if you can remember the 60s or the 70s, you really weren't there. So some of these are places I learned these tunes are a little foggy. And I'm not sure who the source is or anything, but this tune is called Muskrat. Muskrat, what makes your head so wet? Been in the water all my life, water's in my head, water's in my head. so bad. Been up to old Al's house, eat up all he had, eat up all he had. Lord, eat up all he had, now eat up all he had. Little boy, what makes Mom so mad? Well, eat up all that cherry pie, Lord, the best she's ever had, best she's ever had. That's called the muskrat.